Meteorologist Jeffrey Houle coming at you at Mansfield, Ohio for the total solar eclipse coming from coast to coast all the way from Mexico to Canada. And here at South Park in the Mansfield area, we're going to be taking a look at the total solar eclipse. Totality here in Mansfield. At 3:12 p.m., cheers erupted across Richland County, Ohio, as the moon eclipsed the sun in a breathtaking display of nature. Crowds of out-of-towners gathered at South Park, while locals stepped out the doors of their own homes to experience totality, which lasted a grand total of 3 minutes and 19 seconds here in Mansfield.
It was miraculous.
Kind of mind-blowing, right?
Yes, it was mind-blowing, absolutely. And it was worth it to do that because, for all of us, this is our last one. We're never going to see another one again. So how lucky were we that we ended up here in the light on this day?
Very lucky indeed. Thank you so much. The partial solar eclipse, also called first contact, began at 1:57, with onlookers needing to have special eclipse glasses to view it. That is, until second contact, when totality causes night to fall, allowing the stars and planets to shine in the middle of the day. It is during this phase when we are able to see the sun's corona, the wispy, white outer layer of the sun's atmosphere. Third contact signals the end of the darkness as the moon moves out of perfect alignment with the sun. Oddly enough, though, it didn't feel like sunrise. It was a unique experience where darkness and light seemed to intermingle. Fourth contact marks the moment where the moon is no longer obscuring the sun and the eclipse is over. The next coast-to-coast total solar eclipse won't be for over 20 years, falling on August 12th, 2045. Here for you in Mansfield, Ohio, I'm meteorologist Jeffrey Houle.